true life story in the heart of France, where the Eiffel Tower's twinkling lights illuminated the night sky and the streets bustled with the rhythm of a foreign land, there lived a Cameroonian man named Etienne. Etienne had left his home country of Cameroon 10 years ago, chasing the dream of a better life in Europe. Over time, through hard work and determination, he built a life for himself in Paris. He found a stable job as an engineer, bought a modest apartment, and eventually married a beautiful woman named Sandrine. She was also from Africa, but from a different country, Ivory Coast. Their marriage, on the surface, appeared perfect. Sandrine was beautiful and charming, and Etienne was hardworking and devoted. But behind closed doors, tension simmered. Sandrine, although seemingly kind to everyone else, had a heart hardened by jealousy and selfishness. She cared deeply about her status in France and was obsessed with solidifying her position there, especially since she had come to the country on a spouse visa and depended on Etienne for illegal residency. Etienne, being the loving son he was, always dreamed of inviting his mother, Maman Pauline, to France. Maman Pauline had worked tirelessly back in Cameroon to raise Etienne and his siblings, doing everything from farming to petty trading. She had sacrificed everything to see her children succeed, and Etienne never forgot about it. He often sent money home to her, but he longed to bring her to France so she could enjoy the fruit of her labor, even if it was just for a short while. One day, Etienne finally made the decision. He invited his mother to come to France for a visit. He was overjoyed, envisioning how happy she would be to experience the cold winter, see the beauty of Paris, and finally rest from the years of toil in Cameroon. But when Etienne shared the news with Sandrine, her reaction was far from what he expected. "You are inviting your mother?" Sandrine snapped, her voice sharp with irritation. "Why didn't you ask me first?" Etienne was taken aback. "I didn't think I needed to ask, Sandrine. She's my mother. She's never been out of Cameroon. This is her chance to see where we live." Sandrine crossed her arms and glared at him. "Well, you should have asked. I've been telling you to invite my mother instead. She hasn't seen Paris either, and I wanted her to come before your mother." Etienne sighed, trying to calm her. "Sandrine, we can invite your mother next time. This trip is from my mother. Please understand." But Sandrine didn't want to understand. Deep down, she resented Etienne's mother. She felt threatened by the idea of Maman Pauline coming to France, thinking she would interfere in their lives or judge her. Despite her outward beauty and charm, Sandrine harbored a deep jealousy and insecurity when it came to Etienne's mother. When Maman Pauline arrived in France, it was winter. She had never seen snow before and marveled at the icy streets and frosty air. Despite the cold, her heart was warm with happiness. She was finally in Paris, a city she had only heard about in stories. Her son welcomed her with open arms, embracing her tightly at the airport. Tears of joy filled her eyes as she held him, grateful for the life he had built for himself. However, Sandrine's demeanor was cold from the very beginning. The moment Maman Pauline stepped into their apartment, Sandrine barely greeted her. She forced a smile, but it was clear that her heart was not in it. Etienne noticed the tension, but he hoped things would improve with time. He believed Sandrine just needed to adjust. Days passed, and things only grew worse. Sandrine treated Maman Pauline like an inconvenience, speaking rudely to her, ignoring her presence, and even criticizing her for small things like the way she spoke French with a heavy Cameroonian accent. She would make snide comments about how Etienne's mother didn't know how to handle the cold, constantly mocking her attempts to stay warm in the biting Parisian weather. One evening, Sandrine snapped in front of Etienne. "Your mother doesn't belong here," she shouted. "This is my home, and I feel like a stranger in my own house with her around." Etienne couldn't believe his ears. "Sandrine, she's my mother. She's only here for a short visit. How can you say such things?" But Sandrine did not care. She stormed out of the room, leaving Etienne confused and heartbroken. As the days dragged on, Sandrine's resentment boiled over into cruelty. While Etienne was at work, Sandrine would ignore Mama Pauline entirely, refusing to make her meals or help her with anything. Thanks for listening this far. If you enjoy the story, please click the like button, leave your comments, click on the share button, and share with your contacts. Also, please subscribe and turn on your post notification for further videos. Thank you. Now, back to the story. Sometimes, she would even make the old woman feel like a burden by piling chores on her, such as cleaning or ironing, even though she had come to France to rest. Then came the coldest night of the winter, a night that would forever haunt Etienne. Etienne had left for work early in the morning, but as usual, the house was filled with tension. Sandrine had been in a particularly foul mood that day. When Etienne was gone, Sandrine saw her chance to do the unthinkable. In a fit of rage, she walked into Mama Pauline's room and threw her few belongings into a bag. "You are leaving," Sandrine spat, with her eyes filled with venom. Mama Pauline, shocked and confused, tried to reason with her. "Please, my daughter, it's cold outside. Where would I go?" But Sandrine had no mercy. She dragged the elderly woman to the front door, pushed her out into the freezing night, and slammed the door behind her. It was a brutal winter night, and Mama Pauline had nowhere to go. She was disoriented, her hands trembling from the cold, her heart breaking with each step she took. She wandered the streets, not knowing where to turn, the icy wind cutting through her thin coat. Shivering and desperate, Mama Pauline approached a passerby and, through tears, asked in her broken French, "Please, where is the police station?" The kind stranger, seeing her distress, guided her to the nearest station. When she arrived, Mama Pauline could barely speak through her sobs. She explained to the officers what had happened, her voice shaking from both the cold and the pain of betrayal. "I want to go back to Cameroon," she cried. "Please, just send me back home." The police, shocked by her story, immediately called Etienne. When he received the call at work, his world shattered. Without wasting a second, he rushed to the police station, his heart pounding in his chest. When he saw his mother, her face pale and her eyes swollen from crying, he felt an anger he had never known before. "Mama, I'm so sorry," Etienne whispered, holding her close, trying to shield her from the cold that had already taken hold of her. He escorted her back to the warmth of his car and drove home. His mind was racing. When they arrived at the apartment, Etienne's rage boiled over. He walked in and found Sandrine sitting on the couch, completely unbothered. "Pack your things and leave," Etienne said, his voice deadly calm. Sandrine looked at him, shocked. "What do you mean? You threw my mother out in the freezing cold. You are no longer welcome in this house. Leave now, or I will call the police." For the first time, Sandrine saw the fire in Etienne's eyes. She realized that she had crossed a line from which there was no return. She tried to argue, but it was no use. Etienne's mind was made up. He packed her belongings and shoved them into her hands. "You have no respect, no compassion," he said through clenched teeth. "I will never forgive you for this. You depended on me for your residency here, and now you will see what happens when you betray the ones who trust you." With that, Sandrine was thrown out, just as she had thrown out Mama Pauline. The tables had turned. With no legal status of her own, Sandrine quickly found herself on the wrong side of French immigration law. Without Etienne's support, her residency permit became void, and she was left without any means to stay in the country legally. Desperate, she tried to find a way to survive, but time ran out. Within months, Sandrine was deported back to Ivory Coast, where she faced the consequences of her cruelty and selfishness. Back in Cameroon, Mama Pauline recovered from the trauma of her visit. Etienne, filled with guilt for what his mother had gone through, vowed never to let anyone treat her poorly again. He flew her back to Cameroon himself and stayed with her for weeks, trying to make up for the pain she had suffered. The bond between mother and son remained unshaken, but the scar of that winter night in France would stay with them forever. I hope you love the story, and if you do, please leave your comments in the comment section telling me what story you would like to hear next. Please click the subscribe button, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!